So as Beth mentioned, I'm a herpetologist at the San Diego Natural History Museum, the NAT, right here in Balboa Park. And I specialize in amphibians, so I had to do a lot of homework to learn more about crocodiles. So I'll be sharing what I know with you all. When I talk about crocodiles, I'm thinking about all the animals that fit in the family Crocodilia. So that includes crocodiles, alligators, gharials, and caimans. And all throughout human history, crocodiles are such impressive animals that they've fit into a lot of human origin stories. So the Aztecs, that's a depiction of a crocodile there on the bottom. And the Aztec have a god that essentially created Earth through his presence. So when he emerged from the water, it kind of gave power to the people and created land. That's one of the myths. Also in Egyptian culture, there's another crocodile deity. And in Egyptian cultures, they kind of varied depending on who was in power. But this human, half crocodile deity was called Sobek, and it was the god of power and fertility. And crocodiles in the Nile River have always been, they're some of the biggest crocodiles in the world, so very impressive animals. And also in India, and then the idea of crocodiles and dragons are related. So Chinese myths kind of relate the idea of dragons, and we think that they originated from crocodiles as well. And then, of course, in popular culture, we currently are still into crocodiles, right? They're these big, impressive animals. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we have Leatherhead, one of the nemesises of the Ninja Turtles. And, of course, the Pokemon in the middle, you can see, they're still going strong after many generations. These are all crocodile-related Pokemon. And then, of course, the amazing crocodile hunter, the late, great Steve Irwin, who really brought reptiles into popular culture and was into crocodiles as well. Okay, so there are 22 species of Crocodilia. That includes crocodiles, caiman, alligators, and gharial. And they are spread within, if you look at a globe, they're in tropical or subtropical areas. So they essentially don't like it too cold. The further north or south that you get, they are a little bit too cold. They start to get out of their comfort zone, and they can't go any further. So in the United States, we have American crocodiles, American alligators, and then in Australia, a really famous one is the saltwater crocodile, which is the largest crocodile species. And they can get up to 20 feet, documented 20 feet, but there's stories of them before humans started hunting them. They were probably up to 30 feet. So they grow indeterminately, so they grow all throughout their life, so they just keep getting bigger and bigger. So here, it's kind of hard for you all to see, but here's the distribution map of all those 22 species. You can see they don't go that far up from the equator. All right, so let's talk about some of the superpowers of crocodiles. So they have amazing ability to survive. So they've been around for millions of years. Modern crocodiles kind of came into existence about 80 million years ago. Do you all think dinosaurs were around 80 million years ago? Yes or no? Dinosaurs around 80 million years ago? Yes, they were. So they were around, but they are not closely related. So alligators and crocodiles existed in the same time period, but they're not close relatives. They're distant cousins. So they've been around for a long time and have these adaptations that have allowed them to survive. So one thing that they have that they can do really well is their vision is about twice as good as ours, because when the light goes through their eye and hits their retina, it bounces back. There's a special spot in the back of their eye where that light bounces back and goes back through it again. So it goes through the retina twice to really give them good visual acuity. They also have really sensitive pits on their lateral sides of their body and on their head, so they can sense changes in pressure. So if there's something swimming in the water nearby, they can sense that shift. So if it's a mucky, kind of dirty river or cloudy pond and things like that, they can essentially see without actually seeing their prey. And then if you look at the picture of the crocodile here, you can see along its back and on its head, it has these scales that stick up. So those aren't just normal scales, they are bony scales. There's bones inside scales, so it's an amazing combination of bone that sticks out and protects them, and then also is covered in that scale material. And these have been shown to actually, they can harness UV radiation to help the crocodile warm up. So they're ectothermic, they're cold-blooded, and the scutes actually, when they're basking in the sun, help concentrate the UV so that they can warm up and get their prey. And then, of course, their impressive jaws, right? So they have really, really large mouths. And crocodiles and alligators have slightly different mouth structures. Alligators have more of a U-shape head, and then crocodiles have more kind of a narrow point. So this is a crocodile in this picture. And their teeth just regenerate as they lose them. So they can pop in and out as they lose them. So they can keep replacing them as they eat their prey. And they can actually lock their teeth for crocodiles, they lock their bottom teeth into a notch in their upper jaw when they close their mouth. But their strength of their jaws is immense, but only one way, right? So have you ever seen anyone in pictures or in real life, maybe at an amusement park or a zoo, sitting on top of a crocodile's head? How can a human sit on top of a crocodile's head and not die? What's the trick there? They can't open their mouth, right? Because if you hold their mouth closed, when it's already closed, the muscles that open their mouth are very weak. But once their mouth is already open, their muscles are super powerful. So if you can just keep it closed, if it's already closed, you're good to go. You can even just use duct tape and tape their mouth shut. So, yeah. And then again, we talked about their ability to hang out underwater. So they can actually change their metabolism if they kind of are just hanging out at the bottom of the water. Maybe they're just waiting for prey to come by, or they're just resting. They can slow their heartbeat down to 2 beats per minute as an adaptation to really just kind of it's like putting yourself in sleep mode, essentially. And then they can snap out of it very quickly when they need to. So they have this amazing adaptation to conserve energy. They also have ability to store a lot of fat. So when times are lean, when there's not a lot of prey for some reason, they can rely on these fat reserves. So they eat opportunistically. So whenever there's food nearby, they'll go for it, and they'll store it as fat if they have excess prey. But when there's no food, they can really last for a long time. And that's one reason that paleontologists think that crocodiles were able to survive the extinction, as where dinosaurs were not able to survive. The crocodilia lineage survived the mass extinction, which was 65 million years ago. So they think that they were able to survive on limited resources for longer periods than dinosaurs were able to. And reproduction is cool. So one of the best things about being a biologist is you get to talk about sex and reproduction a lot. Their courtship behaviors are very extensive. They do mating calls and displays in courtship. And then the females actually have to move onto land to lay their eggs. And you can see this clutch of eggs is starting to hatch out. So they have really specific requirements for where they nest. And so whether a crocodile and alligator is a male or a female depends on a very specific part of the environment. Does anyone know what that is? Temperature, right? So it's a temperature-dependent sex determination. And so the crocodile parents, the mom, knows what temperature range the eggs need to be in to get both males and females, and she finds a suitable place, and she puts a lot of decaying grass and organic matter to insulate it and keep it at a stable temperature so that the eggs develop normally. Question?
Do we get crocodiles in North America?
There are crocodiles I think they do venture up into Florida, the American crocodile, and there's also a Cuban crocodile, so that's close.
Is that different from the saltwater crocodile?
Yeah, different than saltwater crocodiles. So saltwater crocodiles, we often think of them as Australian, but they actually go up in Indonesia, and they can swim in the open ocean also. So they're very adaptable to different types of environments.
And what are the ones in Africa called?
African, there's the Nile crocodile. There's a dwarf African crocodile. There's multiple species in Africa. Yeah, there's like 5 species in Africa, I believe. But they have parental care too, so the mom will hold on to the eggs and move them if she needs to, and she can also help them hatch. If a hatchling is not able to come out of the egg, she'll crack it open for them, and they crawl into her mouth, and then she brings them to water. So really cool parental care, and they actually stay close by when they're first hatching. And then they lay so many eggs because only 1% of those baby crocodiles survive to become that killer crocodile. So most of them get picked off by other crocodiles or birds or other things. So they have a low survival rate to adulthood.
You said that they can determine which gender or sex the crocodiles are. What makes them choose?
So it's just up to the environment, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So like the eggs that are on the bottom, if they're colder for some reason, versus the ones as you go up the gradient, the ones on the top, I guess, and the closer to the sun would be warmer. So they usually like to have a gradient within that nest, right? They dig a deep nest and they pile the eggs on top of each other. So that's where, the males might be on the top and the ones that are cooler in the middle and on the bottom would be females. Mm-hmm. And then of course we love to think about how things eat also. So they are very stealthy in their hunting practices. So most crocodiles live on a diet of fish or large mammals that they hunt from the banks. So there's different strategies. If you've ever seen a gharial at the zoo, they have that long snout, and that long skinny snout is more adapted to snapping left and right to hit fish in underwater. And then crocodiles, and most typical crocodiles and alligators, actually hunt from the shore. So they kind of like are ambush predators, and they have this amazing ability to adjust their buoyancy. And when they're small, they're not able to do that, but as they get bigger, they can make it so that just their nostrils, which are at the very, very tip of their snout, and their eyes are out. So they're very stealthy, and they can actually move in a way where they don't make a wake or any waves. So unsuspecting prey items don't even see them coming. And their ability to consume prey is, they can eat things very, very big. They go for wildebeest, things way, way bigger than them. And then they drag their prey into the water and hold them underwater until they drown. And then once they're dead, they hold on and kind of twist to rip the meat off of their prey item. So they have to do this twisting to rip the meat off. So when you see things in the movie, when you watch it, there's some things like, why aren't they doing this behavior, right? Well, it's a movie, so our protagonist can have a good time, right? So it's not the most accurate, but it's fun. And you can see here, this is a crocodile in Africa. This is a real picture. I was like, is this real? Because I was looking it up, and there are a bunch of fake ones too. But this one is real, and they just hang on. They'll hang on to their prey, try to drag them to the deepest part of the river until they drown. And there's been studies showing that they will cooperate sometimes in terms of taking down prey. So this is happening during a great migration in Africa that happens every year. The wildebeest and zebras, they all have to migrate to their food sources, and they have to cross this river. And it's a thing of safety in numbers, right? You hope you're not on the edge where the crocodiles are waiting. And then crocodiles, they are dangerous. They are more dangerous to humans than sharks are, because humans interact in areas more frequently with crocodiles, rivers, and you have to go fetch water from the river in a rural village and things like that. So they are a risk to humans, but we are their biggest risk to their survival on the opposite end. So there's a few endangered crocodiles, things like the gharials. There's crocodiles in the Philippines where we think there's maybe less than 100 of them left. So we're losing that biodiversity for hunting is one of the main reasons, and then pollution is a big problem. So if you see that crocodile handbag, make sure it's pleather, not crocodile leather. And then in the movie, you'll see really interesting behaviors where, I guess I don't want to spoil it too much, but let's just say that there's some truth sometimes to crocodiles attacking boats, because the boat, there was a crocodile in northern Australia, saltwater crocodile, where it frequently attacked boats and killed a few people, and so it was a direct attack on a boat. And normally you'd think, why would a crocodile be attacking a boat? Any ideas why a crocodile would be attacking a boat?
The vibrations.
Because the vibrations, they mimic another male, and so they think that crocodile is being aggressive because it was mimicking another male, and they thought it was their territory was being encroached on. And that's all I have for you. Any questions?
Do crocodiles like the taste of humans?
What I read is that they they become acclimated. They're indiscriminate eaters, right? So they pretty much eat anything that fits their prey profile. So I think they do like the taste of humans, yeah. Where mammals just like a wildebeest, and they regularly attack people. Uh-huh.
How long does it take them to digest, like, a wildebeest?
Yeah, I'm not sure how long it takes. It definitely depends on temperature, right? So because they're ectotherms, just like a pet snake, if you have a pet snake and you fed it something, if you have the warm area of the tank, the snake's going to move to the warm area so it can digest its food more quickly. But I'm not sure how long it takes to digest. But they do have these things called gastroliths, so they purposefully swallow rocks to help them crush their prey when they're digesting. So it's when every crocodile purposefully seeks out and eats rocks at a certain age, and that helps them break down their prey items. Yeah. Are they related to chickens?
Do that croupy thing where they have gravel.
That's a good question. Yeah, so they have a crop, kind of like a chicken, but chickens are mostly related to what ancient animals? Dinosaurs. So they're not really that closely related. I guess, yeah, they're far back, far cousins. But asking about the diet, they also have a really acidic stomach, so they can digest turtle shells. Turtle shells are really, really hard, and they can sit in their stomach into the point where they're totally digested. So they have a super, super acidic stomach compared to other animals. So,
How old are they, like, from when they probably last evolved?
So modern crocodiles were around 80 million years ago, and then their distant ancestors were like 200 million years ago. So that's when the first kind of crocodile-like animals came into existence. And paleontology is a really interesting thing to think about because of all the animals that we find in the fossil record, right? So animals that died and left a fossil, it's like just a smidgen of what was really alive in those times. So we kind of have to extrapolate from those things in bits and pieces. And there was a crocodile that was recently described. They found a part of the skull, and they estimate that it was 40 to 50 feet long. So they were huge. They used to be really, really huge. They're big now. Maybe they can reach 30 foot if it had a really long life. But yeah, so.
How maneuverable are they? Can they swim backwards?
They can't swim backwards. They're very maneuverable in the water, but they're really clunky on land. So they're at home in the water. They kind of just tuck their legs in and kind of use lateral movement of their tails. But on land, they're not very able to move that well.
What's their sleep schedule like? Do they sleep on land?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think they can rest underwater, but I'm not sure if they sleep underwater. They can hold their breath for a long time. But they bask on land to stay warm. So, yeah, I'm not too sure about their sleep. All right, thank you. Come and check out the Nat Museum when you have a chance to see some real live reptiles. We have a cool living lab exhibit. And then we have a cool exhibit that we just opened about Baja California. Learn about some amazing stuff down there. Enjoy the movie.